yo. How's it going? What's good? What's good? Everybody hear me? I can see me talk. Don't know if I can hear me talk. Because obviously I have these things on. It's been one of them days today. Long, excruciating. These gloomy days have been a pain. Haven't been wanting to do anything at all. All right. Looks like we got 6 people on already. I'm just gonna start. Just gonna start. All right. I gotta get the spiel out. Welcome to the Tip the Scales podcast, where I give you tips on your friends with scales and tails. What up? This is QB here. As always, if you guys ever have any questions you want to ask live, you can send me an email. My email is at the bottom of the screen there. And you can also just find me on Instagram or Facebook. Send me a question on there and say, hey, this is for the podcast. Or you can just send me questions all together and I'll answer them. I get questions all the time. It's not a big deal. I don't mind it. Obviously, if you have questions, I want to make sure you got the answers. So it doesn't matter if you ask me and ask 10 other people. I'd rather you get all the answers you possibly can and make your own concisive, conclusive decision. And that's it. So that's where we're at. That's where we're at today. I don't have a whole lot that I want to cover today. I have a few questions that I got to cover today. Hey, what's up? You made it. It's good. Yeah, I got some questions I want to cover today. And it's pretty much, what's that? 8 questions. But yeah, that's where we're at. 8 questions today. And obviously, whatever questions we have in the chat as we go through this, I will answer, of course. That's all I got. That's my spiel for the beginning of the video. And we can go ahead and get started. Let's see. Share this. How long should you wait to breed your Thunderbolt? I'm trying to remember how big your Thunderbolt is. I think right now it would be a year old around this time. You could probably wait another. It was either born in December or January. I can't remember, but usually 18 months for a female. It's pretty good. And if it's a male, honestly, 12 months is fine as long as it's big enough. The longer you wait, the better, because you want it to be mature, obviously. But there's not much maturing a male is going to do around that time, from now to 18 months or whatever. So 12 months, and I want to say probably 250 grams. A male's pretty much ready to go. If he's willing, he probably will do it. I wouldn't do it any smaller than that, because considering females are usually pretty big when they're breeding. So females, I usually wait 18 months and about 300, 350. That really depends on the length of the female. Like I have some females that are 21 inches. I have some females that are 17 inches. The 17-inch female is not going to weigh the same as the 21-inch female. So you should kind of be gauging that based off the length of your female, not just the age and not just the weight. There's more that goes into it than age and weight. Let's see. How's the ERBA growing? ERBA, no new members, but I want to say, let me check real quick. ERBA. It has 68 followers on Instagram. Obviously, I haven't been posting much. So what I've noticed with the ERBA, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't want to hear it. There's a lot of people don't want to hear it. There's a lot of people think there's going to be just mainly talking trash about people. It's not. I'm not ever going to mention anybody by name. I'm just going to share different things that I've noticed. And I was going to post something today, actually, about crinkle toes. But of course, somebody's going to say something about it. So that's the only thing bad about it is you want to say something, but then you also don't want to make a bunch of enemies, and that's how people's accounts get taken down. You don't even have to do anything wrong. You just make enemies, and everybody will block you or report you or both. And then all of a sudden, your account gets removed by Instagram just because people didn't like you. So that's, you got to be careful about that. You got to be careful about the there was a phrase for it. The people that do that, I forgot what the phrase was, but essentially they like bomb reports or whatever, and essentially get your account removed. So that's unfortunately where we're at right now. But I was going to post something about crinkle dust today. Maybe I'll post it tomorrow. I still have to get permission from the person to let me use their picture. So that's where we're at. Let me go ahead, pop up this thing. All right. So, Tip to Scales podcast. Obviously, that's where we're at. That's what we're doing today. That's where we're at, of course. So let's go into the first question. I don't see any more questions on the chat there. So let's go ahead and get started into the first question. All right. First question was most anticipated bearded dragon pairing. So the first two questions are from the same person. You'll kind of get that based off the questions here. Because one is most anticipated pairing, the other one most anticipated clutch. The reason it was one question and I broke it up into two questions because you could anticipate a pairing and then that pairing never pans out. The female could lay infertile clutches. The male never inseminated the female. So many things that could happen and you don't ever get any eggs from it. So most anticipated bearded dragon pairing right now is this one right here. So the boy on the left there is a hypogenetic stripe, possible het translucent, and he is yarrow. That's what I call him. Yarrow is a type of flower. And then we have on the right there, we have dahlia, which is another type of flower. I like to name my yellows after flowers. I have iris. I have a goldie, which is short for goldenrod. I have iris, calla lily, poppy. It's a bunch of different names over there. So yarrow and dahlia here. Dahlia is a hypotrans leatherback genetic stripe dunner. Some people would call her not a genetic stripe, but I produced her, and I know she's a genetic stripe just because of the pairing that it was. Because genetic stripe is technically polygenic, you could have different variations to genetic stripe, and she is one of those different variations. You can kind of see her genetic stripe has a break here, and then a break over here. Other than that, it's pretty much connected all the way all the other places. And dunners usually have it's a lot harder to connect genetic stripes and dunners than it is with regular stripes like this one over here on the left. So I know for a fact she's a genetic stripe. I don't know for a fact he's het translucent. He's a 66% het translucent, I think. And therefore, if he does prove out, it'll be a pretty nice pairing because genetic stripe to genetic stripe with translucent involved gets you thunderbolts. We'll see what happens. If anything, I should be able to get a few nice babies out of this, just yellow babies overall, and that would be a pretty nice clutch, just having a bunch of yellows. And I can't be mad. Yellows are the favorites. I haven't got a clutch from her yet. We shall see. So far, the clutches I have are het wiblets, reds. That's pretty much it. So not much going off. What I am anticipating for this year. This year I had a lot of anticipations, het zeros, het wiblets. It's hard to produce het wiblets and het zeros. As a breeder, you want them because you want to be able to produce zeros in the future with new stock. And then as a consumer, you don't care if it's het wiblets or het zero, and then you don't want to pay the price of the premium of it being a het zero or het wiblets. And that's the only problem with that. But for a consumer, it's pretty good pet quality stuff, unless they're colorful. And then as a breeder, you want the het wiblets and the het zeros. So that's what I'm working on besides yellows. That's the other thing. I have yellows, reds, and wiblets in the clutches there. I have like two or three clutches for yellows, 2 clutches for reds, and 2 clutches for wiblets. So that's where we're at right now. And now the next question is the most anticipated bearded dragon clutch. This is the clutch that's already touched down. It's already here. I'm just waiting for it to hatch. The most anticipated one is this one right here. This is a red male that is a leatherback, a hypotrans leatherback dunner. And then the female is, I know she doesn't look like much. She is a red, 50% red monster that is possible het translucent, possible het hypo. She gave me 3 clutches so far. The first clutch was only 4 eggs. And out of the 4 eggs, one of them was a visual translucent. So I know she's 100% het translucent now. But out of the 4 eggs, none of them were visual hypo. So I don't want to rule it out yet. So I'm still saying possible hypo. So as of right now, she is 100% het translucent, possible het hypo. And I probably won't rule it out until I get an entire clutch, which should be the next one. I want to say it's like 15 days away from hatching. So about 2 weeks from now, I should have her next clutch hatching. And that's it. That's where I'll know for sure if she's het hypo or not. If she's just het translucent, it's not bad. Most people only like, so translucent and reds is it's hard to say because people like darker reds, and translucent usually darkens the bearded dragon, whereas hypo brightens it out. So most people don't like the bright reds. You can see the male on the left there. He's a hypo trans, so he's has the best of both worlds, but he still has oranges because of that hypo in there. You can see it on his toes, his legs, his head, some of his back, like the spotting of the dunner. It still has the oranges and stuff on there. But other than that, he's mainly red. If he was just visual translucent and not hypo, he would be a lot darker than he is. But then the female, she's not hypo or visual trans, and she is kind of an orange. In person, she looks more like a brick red, but she is in pictures. She always looks like orange red. And that's weird. I just had an ad pop up on my phone. I didn't know there were supposed to be ads on lives. YouTube must be doing something different. All right, let's see. Got some stuff on the chat here. These two are amazing. She's one of the prettiest dragons I've ever seen. I'm assuming you were talking about this yellow pairing here. Yeah, she's like the best dragon I've ever produced, to be honest. I've produced paradoxes. I've produced almost everything you can think of, and yellows the best, and yellow blue bars even better. And this one she has all the best of both, all the worlds. She has the hypo, the translucent, the leatherback, the dunner. She's pretty much everything except wiblets and zero. So, and obviously down there's albino and all this other stuff coming out. But she is one of the prettiest dragons I have for sure. And then, do you breed red monsters? Absolutely not. I do not breed red monsters. I breed reds, and obviously a lot of reds carry the red monster gene nowadays. The male that you see on the screen here, he has no red monster lineage. The female is a 50% red monster. So the babies in this clutch will be 25% from red monster lineage, but I don't advertise none of that. So what you'll see is what you get. The only thing I'll advertise is saying what the pairing was, and that's it. So in the description somewhere of the listing, I'll say dad is blah, blah, blah. Mom is this, but I will never say, oh, you have a 25% red monster. I'm not going to do all that. I don't care too much about the red monster stuff. And I know for a fact, eventually all reds will have red monster in them. So there is no point in advertising red monsters anymore, to be honest. Red monsters eventually will be the face of reds, unfortunately. But hopefully by then, all of the kinks and quirks and defects will be cleared out. And I know nobody really likes to talk about it, but there's a lot of defects in red monsters. Not a lot. I don't want to say a lot. Like there's 100 of them. That's just the main ones, the main ones that happen with inbreeding. So I do not breed red monsters. Probably never will breed red monsters. That's just how it is, unfortunately. Or not unfortunately. That's just how it is. Not unfortunately, it is just how I am. All right. The next question I had was how much to feed hatchlings and how often. So hatchling bearded dragons, you want to feed them every single day. If you decide to feed them once a day, it's possible. You just have to give them a lot of food. If you don't want to give them a lot of food, you can do it twice a day. The thing about bearded dragons, when they're hatchlings, they have to constantly be eating, so they constantly grow. If you decide to only feed them once a day and you put a lot of food in there, they might survive off of that, which is perfectly fine. But insects, especially crickets, are prone to biting on baby bearded dragons, and they will essentially bite on them, and you don't want that to happen. You don't want any nicks on your bearded dragon for no reason. I haven't really seen it myself with dubia roaches in terms of them like eating them or anything like that, or biting on their tails or their toes or whatever. Um, I'm sure it happens considering they have mouths too, but crickets for sure, it does happen. So you can do it twice a day, once a day. You can do it you have to do it every day, obviously. In terms of how much, I usually buy extra small dubias, and you can probably do 10, 15 a day per dragon, and they'll eat that just fine. If you want to break it up between 2 sessions or 1 session for the whole day and let them kind of fend off of that for the day. So if you have like in a container where they can come to and eat every single time they feel like getting hungry, you can do that. But yeah, definitely like 10, 15 a day until they get a little bit bigger. Once they get a little bit bigger, like a month old, they'll probably do 20 a day. And then probably around 2 months, you can upgrade them to smalls, and they'll go down to like 10 or 15 again. So it really just depends on what you choose to do, how often you're able to feed them. The number is more important than anything because you also want to make sure. For me, I like to feed them in the morning and just leave food in there. That way, if they get hungry, they eat instead of doing half and half. Because then if they get hungry during the day and they decide to bite each other, then obviously you end up with nip tails and nip toes and stuff like that, which is not something anybody wants. Next question is how to get started in 2025. What are the standards? What are the standards? The standards have always been the same. The problem is people like to deviate from the standards for saving of money and for saving of space and for saving of energy and all of that. It's just that's just how people are. I'm not saying I'm any different. I'm saying I have standards for myself. I want to make sure every bearded dragon is comfortable. I want to make sure they're less likely to get sick, which is why I keep my enclosures bare. That obviously saves me time as well and saves me energy and saves me resources, but I don't want them to get sick. So I'm doing it more for them than I am for myself. If somebody said, oh, bearded dragons, if you don't have dirt and if you don't have climbing structures, they will die, then obviously I'll go that route. But all they say, they'll have a better life. I mean, you know how else they'll have a better life? If they're not dead from illnesses, or if they're not dead from impaction, or like that's a pretty good life to me if you're not dead from something like that. So I just keep it bare, easier to clean, easier to wipe down. That's just how I keep it. So that's just my standard. Everybody have their own standards. As far as spacing, I want to give every bearded dragon at least 6 square feet. Whether you go 3 foot by 2 foot or you go 4 foot by 1.5 feet. The best, obviously, is 4 by 2. Now you can go 24 inches tall. It's not necessary. 18 inches tall is pretty good for me. That's what I use is 18 inches, and it's worked like that probably for the last 8 years. I've always done 4 by 2 by 18s or 3 by 2 by 18, and it's worked like that for me for a very long time. I've never had any issues with the height being 18 inches instead of 24 inches. How do you get started? Well, if you go look on any place selling bearded dragons, Morph Market, go to the pet stores, whatever the case may be, you will see a lot of different things. You will see a lot of different breeders. Just find something that you like and stick with it. That's all I got to tell you how to get started in 2025. Make sure you have space. Make sure you have extra funds because it's going to cost a lot of money to get started. I assume that most budgets will have to be over $3,000 nowadays to get started. And so when I say $3,000, I'm not saying you're going to spend $3,000 on bearded dragons. You're probably not. You're probably going to spend $500-$600 on bearded dragons. If you're getting 2, if you're getting 3, that's $900, maybe $1,000. If you're getting 4, it just keeps going up from there. But with 2 dragons and you're spending like $400 on their enclosures, that's $800 right there. You're already looking at $1,400. That's half of your budget. And then you have to feed them for 2 years in order for them to get big enough. So while it's not upfront $3,000, it's going to be $3,000 that you'll have to fork over the time of the 2 years, year and a half, however long you take before you start breeding. So it'll be about $3,000 that you'll put in before you get any money out of it. So do you want to get started? Is the question. How much is it going to cost? What is going to be the cost in taking care of all of this? So you've already spent $1,600 on taking care of the babies that are now adult breeders. How much is it going to cost to get an incubator, to feed the babies, to set up a baby rack, to set up enclosures for your babies? All of that's going to end up costing you probably another five, Yeah, I would say. Just in feeding a one clutch, you're probably all right. So let's get this out of the way. I said you get 10, 15 bugs a day on a bearded dragon. Average clutch is about 20. So let's say you're doing 10, that's 2,000 bugs every day that they're possibly eating. They may not eat, they may eat a lot more, who knows? But that's the possibility. And it takes you 2 months to feed them off. So I buy 20,000 extra smalls for about $500, $600 once a month. So that's me. When there's more clutches, I have to probably do it every other week or every 2 weeks or something like that. So it gets a little bit hectic for sure. So do you want to do it is the question. It's a lot that goes into it, to be honest. Oh, another question on the chat there. Can you create an incubator with a cooler with no fan? Will it work? If so, how many times do you open the cooler for airflow? Lastly, how do you keep humidity in that? Correct. So you don't need a fan. You absolutely don't need a fan. So whenever I started out, my incubator was a cooler from Walmart, one of those igloo or coolers or whatever. Or you can also find a styrofoam cooler, whichever one you can find. Either one works. What you do is you put a little bit of water in there and you find a platform that you can find like a wire shelf or something like that you want to use, and you put in there as a platform to hold the clutch of eggs on top. You don't need any fans. You just need consistent temperatures and consistent humidity. Humidity can also be achieved by putting water in the vermiculite or the perlite, whatever you use, inside of the egg container. No holes, obviously, because the holes will allow the vermiculite to escape, or the humidity to escape the container. So I don't use holes. My egg containers are sealed all the time. I also use press and seal to make sure it's sealed and no air escapes from there. And also doesn't allow things to come in. So if, like, for example, if I get gnats in here and I open up the incubator to put a clutch in there, a gnat could fly in there and destroy all my clutches just because it's not sealed properly, which I've had happen before. It's terrible. It's the worst thing ever. You open up an egg container with the day it's supposed to hatch and there's gnats coming out of it. You know, it's not going to, none of them made it, to be honest. So you just got to make sure you have no fan. You make sure the incubator the temperature's good. So whenever, for the temperature, when you have that water at the bottom, you do got to add water so often, just to make sure that the fish tank thermometer the fish tank heater, which you set it at, is like 84. And that way the water heats up the cooler essentially, and then you have a consistent 84 throughout the cooler. But you got to make sure you keep adding water so that the heater is consistently heating water and not burning through the styrofoam or the plastic. So that's the easy way. That's a cheap way. If you want to go all out and buy an incubator, I wouldn't buy any of the ones that you see online anywhere, like the $100 incubators. You can buy the Hubabator, which is pretty good. It's made by Reptile Zoo, I think it is, or ZooMed. I don't know, one of them. And essentially, those are pretty good. They're styrofoam. I think they're like a styrofoam one. So that's essentially the only thing that's good about them. You bought heat tape and a 120 thermostat for the incubator. Nah, the heat tape's not going to work because it needs to be inside for the cooler. Yeah, the thermostat's great. But you definitely need the fish tank heater if you want to use a cooler, because the water is going to be inside the cooler. You can't heat the cooler with the heat tape. It's not going to work that well, because the way coolers are made is they have insulation essentially to make sure the temperature inside stays inside and doesn't escape the cooler. So you won't be able to use heat tape. The water and the heater from the fish tank is going to work a lot better, and you can plug the heater for the fish tank into the thermostat, have the thermostat probe inside of the egg container, and have the heater of the fish tank also at 84. So if it does for some reason get over 84 in there, the thermostat will kick it off and keep it at a consistent 84. But other than that, I would not use heat tape. Absolutely not for a cooler situation. If you want to make an incubator out of PVC, you can use heat tape. But other than that, I wouldn't use it for a cooler. Outbreeding red monsters to normal reds. That's good. Yeah, that's good. That's what we need. We need more outcrossing. We need less people doing red monsters, red monster. If it's for the money, you're in it for the wrong thing. That's all I gotta say. You gotta do everything to better the species, because the species is the only way you can continue to breed. Because if the species goes bad, you won't be able to breed anything. So there you go. I was actually talking about this to somebody not that long ago, talking about how pet bearded dragons, like the gray ones and the colorless ones, um, they're usually more healthy than the ones that you get with translucent and hypo and all that, and that's because of inbreeding. And typically, hypo is a perfectly fine, like, genetic morph, but when you start adding all this stuff on top, it starts dwindling the species or the health of the species. So, alrighty, next question. Speaking of, do translucent and hypos require different UVB levels? Absolutely not. There was one time people were breeding, I think it was T negative albinos, and those were needing special UVB, and they actually didn't make it that long. But now we have T positive albinos who don't need any different UVBs. Leatherbacks don't need different UVB. Translucent, hypo, zero wiblets. None of them really didn't. They don't all. None of them need different levels of UVB or anything like that. Every single bearded dragon uses the same UVB level. And that's because they're all considered desert dwellers. So they all use that 10.0 or that 12%, depending on if you use Reptile Sun or if you use the Arcadia lighting. Other than that, different UVBs for different morphs, not needed. It's all the same, all across the board. Okay, another question in the chat. Have they figured out paradox yet? I haven't seen some breeders on. Nah. What you see is a bunch of breeders doing 1,000 bearded dragons, and they have 10 paradoxes. The paradox is such a random anomaly that it doesn't. There's no way to know if for sure you're going to get one. I've produced a paradox before. I've had thousands of bearded dragons go through here, and I've only ever produced one paradox. And that same pairing that produced that paradox bred for 3 years straight and only produced the paradox the last year they bred together. So for 3 years, no paradoxes. And then 1 year, the female laid 4 clutches. Only 1 clutch had a paradox. That is how paradox works. Random as heck. No way to replicate it. You can do it over and over again, and you probably won't get another paradox for another 10 years. The steady flow of paradoxes is from people overbreeding. Like if you look at the people in China and everything, they're doing, the way they sell stuff outside of China, the way they export, I'm pretty sure they're doing probably 20 clutches a month the way they're selling stuff. I mean, you can see the export pictures they put, and it'll be boxes that are like 30 by 30 with like 200 bearded dragons in them just going somewhere. And they're doing that quite often. So that's essentially how they are producing paradoxes. So no, there's no way to figure out paradox. It's not a thing. It's a genetic anomaly. It's a pattern anomaly that only happens randomly. All right. Yeah. Have you ever had an entire clutch of beardies be aggressive? No. I've had siblings be aggressive. Let's see. The best example that I have 2 siblings from the same clutch. I wanted to make sure they weren't like different clutches from the same parents. So they're from the same clutch. They're both aggressive. Not aggressive like I'm gonna tear your face off. They're aggressive like I need food. If you don't bring food in here, your finger's next. That's that type of aggression. And the female, she's not really aggressive like that. She just, whenever you go pick her up, she like huffs and puffs, and then eventually you pick her up and she's fine. The male, on the other hand, he's like the entire time trying to fight you, trying to get out of your hands. I know it's not the clutch because I have people that send me updates of the clutch mates, and they're like, "Oh, look at them! And look at how beautiful it is, holding it, have it on their shirt, have it in their head, and stuff like that." And I'm like, "Dang, I wish I could do that with mine." And the female, like I said, she's not that bad. Once you get her out, she's okay. The male, on the other hand, once you get him out, he's still crazy. So, and I have another one that's an adult, and he's also crazy. But I don't have any of his siblings. but I have his mom. His mom is a sweetheart. His mom never does anything. So, and his dad was a little crazy, but that probably didn't do anything. I mean, he could have inherited the craziness, but I haven't really ever seen that happen. To be honest, I've seen them like inherit crinkle toes. I've seen them inherit short snouts, but I've never seen them inherit personality traits, which is definitely possible. But from all of the times that I've bred, I obviously hold back what I can. I don't hold back every single offspring, but I do get updates. So I want to say that it's not something that's inheritable, but an entire clutch, absolutely not. Maybe one or two, three, maybe half the clutch, but never an entire clutch. I've never seen that happen. Never. All right. Another set of questions. What about chromas? All right. So here we go. All right. Chromas are interesting because the Asian and the Spanish chromas look different. Yes. All right. So chromas. How do we get chromas? Is a newer thing that's coming out, and usually you see it more in the red monster lineage of stuff, and that's so. So how do I put this? So all right, let's put it this way. Chromas is like genetic stripe. Chroma is like tiger. It's reproducible, but it's not translucent. It's not hypo. Could it be like Dunner where it's dominant? I'm not sure. I don't have enough experience with it. But for now, I'm going to say it's like genetic stripe and tiger, where the more breeding you do together, eventually the more chromatic effect, essentially you could say, is on the offspring. And even then, it doesn't even show on the offspring until it develops it after a few clutches or after a few sheds. Sorry. So that's the only thing about chromas that people are still figuring it out. There's the one thing I hate about people figuring things out is that you got a chroma, right? You got another chroma. You're like, let's figure it out. Boom. How you gonna figure something out if you put two chromas together? That's not gonna figure anything out. All the babies gonna come out looking like chromas. So that's one thing that I don't like about people putting things together when they're trying to figure it out. Like for me, I possibly have a chroma, no clue. I still can't find out the lineage of this dragon, but the way he looks like he has chromatic effect. I'm gonna keep saying that. I think it's funny to say that. But then again, looking at him, I'm like, he could also be a paradox. That just instead of going completely off color, he just lost some color. So you know what? Let me see if I can find a picture of him. So earlier when I was talking about most anticipated bearded dragon clutch and bearded dragon pairing, I was going to also answer like ball pythons, but I don't have any clutches for ball pythons yet, and I also no boa clutches, no hognose clutches. So I could have just done the most anticipated pairing, but I don't know how well that would have gone. All right, let me share this. One second, I gotta stop sharing. All right, so this is the male that I'm talking about. So you can see his head is colored, obviously. And then you can also see the rest of his body is pretty much pale, which is something that you see a lot in chromas. And you can see the scales on his legs are white when they were red orange before. Same over here. Obviously, they look gray, and that's just because he's doing that thing where he's darkened up a little bit. So all the scales have gone to like a whiter color. You can kind of see that when he used to be the color of his head. So there's whiteout out there, there's chroma out there, and then there's also paradox out there that people do get confused with chroma and whiteout because paradox can also do the same thing where it changes the color drastically. So could this be a paradox? Could this be a chroma? Could this be a whiteout? Who knows? I haven't really heard much about whiteout because the person that was breeding them kind of fell off the face of the earth. At least for me, maybe they blocked me. Maybe I don't know. I don't know what happened, but they gone. I don't know what happened to them. So I think they were called whiteout, something like that. But that's essentially like I don't know what this guy is. I still don't know. So I'm gonna have to breed him eventually, and I have the perfect female to breed him to because she is orange hypo, and if anything, I'll get orange babies out of it. He's like an orange red color, so if anything, I'll get orange babies out of it, and I'll also get to see if this chroma is something, or if this is paradox, or if this is chroma. So I don't want to use up a genetically packed female for a pairing like this just to figure something out. That makes sense. All right. No holes in the cup with the vermiculite. No holes in the cup with the vermiculite. Nope. Has to be sealed, so no air can get in or out. Okay. All right. How are all the new dragons doing? They're doing all right. They're doing pretty good. So I've moved every dragon except for Fluke and Charles over to enclosures. That's because I'm still working on building enclosures. I have Duke in an enclosure, have Mercules in an enclosure, Flo's in an enclosure now, Daimos is in an enclosure now, Hermania is in an enclosure. Everybody's in an enclosure except for Fluke and Charles. So they're doing good though. It's been over a month now, so they're out of quarantine. I've been pairing some of them. Yeah, I don't have any clutches from them so far, but I have two females that I think may be gravid. I'll know for sure here as the time progresses because I have to make sure that the scales grow. What is happening? Where all the chat questions go? There you go. They all disappeared on my phone. I had them on my phone. All right. They're all doing good. Would you ever get into the oddball translucent mutation? Maybe. I'm not really. I'm not really into the oddball stuff, to be honest. I never got into like the Casey paradigms. It just didn't look good to me. I don't like muddy stuff. I don't like blotchy stuff. Paradox. I barely even like Paradox, but it's cool because it's something so random. So I'm not really a huge fan of that stuff. I like my bearded dragons to be a nice, clean look, and people like that stuff. That's perfectly fine. I probably want to get into it, but if I end up having it in my collection, I'm not going to be mad. I'll just try to keep it separate, keep it together, so it doesn't just run rampant everywhere. I don't want it in every single pairing that I have, so I have to make sure I keep it separate and keep it on the low, keep it on one side of the building. Essentially, that's really I'm not really a huge fan of it. Just the muddy looking, blotchy looking bearded dragon. That's not for me. I mean, if it's for everybody else, that's perfectly fine. It's just not for me. I never, like I said, I never got into the Casey paradigm. It just wasn't for me. Here we go. Is it true that albino beardies are blind? No, no. So T plus albino and T negative albino or T positive albino and T negative albino are two different things. T negative albinos are sensitive to light, but they're sensitive to light, which is why they have issues with UVB and why they didn't survive. So in terms of being blind, who knows? They could have just died before people found out if they were blind or not. I don't think anybody ever saw an adult one. So to tell you if they were blind, I couldn't even answer that question. But T positive, the T plus albinos, which are the ones you see right now, they are not blind. They have no differences in anything from regular bearded dragons because T positive albinos don't have the same light sensitivities that T negative albinos do. So no, they're not blind. The only thing is I've noticed is people are complaining about them in terms of genetic defects and slow growth and dwarfism and stuff like that because they are essentially a newer morph and people are inbreeding them way too much. I actually saw somebody on one of the guys, the main guy that does the seed idea guy that does the albinos, somebody commented on one of his posts saying, hey, I try to get a hold of the breeder, but he won't reach out to me. There's a problem with my dragon. Talking about albinos. And I was like, oh no. And I try to say what kind of what kind of problems, but they didn't answer me. So it is what it is. So there's only so much I can do. I try to ask the question, no answer. Try to answer, or I try to get an answer so I can give you all the answer, but no answer. That's how that works for me. How that works for me. I ain't got no other questions, so I'll just open it up. You guys got any questions? Put them in the chat, and I'll answer. And I don't have a whole lot of time left because we got a long day, and I'm sure everybody wants to relax for the rest of the day instead of. So what happens is I bring my Wi-Fi out here, so I bring the whole router out here, and the kids are up there working off very slow internet because they have to run off like 300 feet distance from the router now. That's they'll be all right for an hour. So just put whatever questions you have in the chat. If you have any questions you can think of in the future, send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, or you can send me an email at this email down here at the bottom, and it says, and the subject will be podcast questions. So I know not to ignore it because I do ignore emails. Unfortunately, you get a lot of emails about stuff that you don't need to get. Have you ever had a red with a full color belly? Yes, it's a full color belly. Red? No. So what happens with red bearded dragons is you get yellow bellies. You get yellow bellies with red blotches on them. And that's because essentially their bellies are supposed to be white. So what you see is just color seeping through the white. And that's why you get that yellow look. And then there's pattern. So if you ever look at a regular bearded dragon's belly, there's going to be like ovals essentially that are gray. And with the red bearded dragons, they turn red. And with yellow bearded dragons, they turn yellow or they turn orange, possibly, depending on how much orange and yellow the bearded dragon has. And other than that, that is how it looks. Let me see. I have a post on Instagram that I did about my bearded dragon being gravid, and you can see the belly picture. So let me share that over here. Here you go. So yeah, you see that? Yellow. And red bearded dragons, it'll be like an orange yellow, and then these white blotches, this one has them white. So this little white ovals will be like a red ring around them. She has a yellow ring around her white ones. But yeah, she's gravid. You can see that egg right there, egg right here, egg right here. There's a bunch of eggs in there. She hasn't even started digging yet, so we're probably still a week away before she actually has any digging going on. But that's how yellow bellies look. I don't think I have any red bellies to show you. Do I? Translucent bellies also have more color than hypo bellies. There's another thing. That's pretty much it. The idea publicly talks about visually pairing translucents and zeros. Yep, he sure does. This is why I never import any bearded dragons from Asia. It's because they don't care. They're breeding for profit, so they will breed translucent to translucent, zero to zero, wiblets to wiblets, wero to wero, and they don't care. As long as they get their money, they don't give a you know what. So that's essentially the bad thing about other breeders. So one thing I noticed in Mexico, they have standards they have to follow. They have to have permits and everything they have to have, which comes with inspections and everything. And if you want to start breeding reptiles, we don't have that here in the United States, which is a huge downfall of breeding in the United States is that there's nobody monitoring, there's nobody enforcing any laws or anything like that, which is pretty bad. But then people would complain about that because that's just how it goes. A yellow with a yellow belly and a yellow beard, absolutely. One day. But I like my yellows without translucent, so you don't really see a lot of yellow bellies and non-translucent babies or non-translucent bearded dragons. That's the only bad thing about it. If you want the color in the belly, you have to have translucent. So that's the only bad thing about it. Yeah, I don't think I have a belly picture of any other bearded dragon right now. Yep. All right, peoples. I'm not seeing any more questions. I ain't got much else. I never see Weeros pop up. Yeah. Ever since you mentioned that Weero were the whitest you can get, I've been looking. So Weeros, the reason they don't pop up very often, well, I'll take that back. They popped up here the last few months because somebody was getting out of breeding. They were selling everything, and it was not good quality. I had a lot of people send me pictures and screenshots saying, "Hey, what's up with this Weero?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I wouldn't buy that Weero. Wasn't good quality. They had some defects. I don't know about it." So, but Weeros, the reason why they're hard to come by is because a Weero is a 0 and a Wiblets in 1. And the only way you can produce a 0 is by head to head. And the only way you produce a Wiblets is head to head. So if you want to have Weero together, so Wiblets and 0 together, you have to have a double het Wiblet 0 compared to a double het Wiblet 0, which then ends up being a 1 in 16. So 1 in 16. I think it's 1 in 16. So let me show you. I'll show you the exact way I can tell you. I like this tool, man. This tool is a good tool. Let me share it. I brought it up on the last one. All right, calculators, bearded dragons. So this also tells you the ratio that you're gonna get. So het 0, wow, I got caps lock on. Het Wiblets, het 0, het Wiblets. Yep, 1 in 16. So if you want to produce a Weero, it'll be a 1 in 16 chance of producing a Weero. If the average clutch is 20 eggs, you may get 1 or 2 Weeros. That's the odds. That's the way things work. But people get lucky. People get unlucky. People get lucky to where they have, 5 Weeros. And people get unlucky where they have no Weeros, but they have 5 Wiblets and 5 zeros. So you're like, dang, I could have, I would have been fine with 3 Wiblets and 3 zeros and 3 Weeros, but that's not what they got. So that's the bad thing about it. Like I have, nah, that's not a good pairing because they can't go together. Both of them are leatherbacks. But this is how it goes. 1 in 16 at a minimum to get a Weero. And then to add stuff on top, let's say you got a hypo to a het hypo. And yes, 1 in 32 to get a hypo Weero. So probably not going to get it. But if this one ends up being a visual hypo, then obviously it's still 1 in 16. Then you have translucent. And then let's say this one's het translucent. 1 in 32 again to get a hypotrans Weero. So it's all crazy. It's all about the numbers, man. It's wild. But yeah, they're hard to come by because they're hard to produce. Not everybody's going to be able to produce one. Oh, I appreciate you guys. Appreciate you guys for sure. Let's see. They were terrible looking. Considered buying. Then I started to look at their dragons. Absolutely crazy. I know. It's wild. I don't understand why people do that. And Morph Market is usually pretty good about it. But Morph Market is also policed by the people. So if the people don't report the listings, Morph Market can't do anything because they can't look at every single listing that ever gets posted. So if you guys see anything that looks weird, I'd report it. Oh yeah, it made me upset. I whenever people start sending me stuff and they're like, "Hey, what's up with this?" I'm like, "Dang, that's a breeder posting this stuff. Like, come on. Have the decency to at least put in the description that it's pet only, or put in the title that it's pet only. You can't just be selling this. Like, that's crazy." And they were dirt cheap. They were cheaper than some zeros because they were trying to get out of them. And it's just like, come on, like that's wild to me. That's wild to me. I don't understand it. And then there's people like I had some Wiblets that I had listed at the end of last year. They were the last babies to sell for 2024. And I had people complaining about mine, and they were like, "Oh no, they're unhealthy. They're sick." I sold them. The people that I sold them to still send me pictures of them. They're humongous now. They're growing. They're shedding like all the time. Oh, they were sick though. They were about to die, man. Oh, I don't know how. I don't know how they were about to die, but all of a sudden they're as healthy as can be and they're growing like weeds. People complain about the weirdest things, man. People just complain just because they hate people, and they don't complain if they don't have nothing to say. So I'm like, if you don't complain, but you see something, that's a problem. But if you complain just because you don't like the person, that's a problem. I don't make no sense to me. I don't understand people. It really bothers me that people are like that. But there's nothing I can do about it. Absolutely nothing I can do about it. Unfortunately. Man, all the dragon lights turned off in here. I'm over here getting sleepy now. The dragons went to sleep. I need to go to sleep. It's early too, but I'm a dad, so I'm on their schedule. And sometimes they're on a different schedule. Be trying to go to sleep at 11 o'clock at night. I'm like, nah, now it's 10 o'clock. But yeah, I ain't got nothing else. That's all I got, to be honest. Almost an hour. We almost made it. We almost made it. Let's see. I'm still on the fence if I'm gonna start doing these every week or not. So they're still being scheduled every 2 weeks as of right now. I also want to. I'm not gonna say it. It's all right. I'm not gonna say it. It's not meant to be said. That's all it is. That's where I'm gonna leave it. That's where I'm gonna leave it. All right, y'all. I ain't got nothing else. If you made this far, I appreciate you guys. As always, you guys make me do stuff. Oh, I do gotta say something because I haven't posted a video in a while. It's been the entire week. I didn't post no videos, and I was thinking to myself, I have 2 videos that I can post, but one of them needs to be edited, and the other one I'm not even sure I want to post it. And I was thinking to myself, I was like, I ain't posted nothing in a while. And I was like, I don't want to make nobody mad, and they start unsubscribing. And I kid you not, I said that to myself, and then I went from 31. It was 5101, 5,101 subscribers down to 5,099. And I was like, dang, 2 people got mad that I didn't post on Friday. That's wild, man. That's crazy how that happened. That's wild. Next Reptile Expo, I only have 6 bearded dragons to sell, so I might not do anything. And I only have 3 ball pythons. So 6 bearded dragons, 3 ball pythons. I technically could go, and if I even sell like 3 bearded dragons, I'll be happy. It'll be worth it. But I don't know. To pick up everything and go and then possibly not sell anything, that always bugs me. That's one thing I don't like about Reptile Expos, unfortunately. So probably not gonna do it. He hasn't really reached out either to see if I was gonna show up there. So that means he probably doesn't need a bearded dragon vendor, which probably means there's gonna be another bearded dragon vendor there. Oh, I got an auction ending in an hour. Hey, let's see what I get. Or if I don't get, no, that's way out of my price range. Dang, that got up there. It was for a boa. Man, that's crazy. What it got way up there. That's way out of my price range. I knew it was gonna get up there. I was just hoping that it wouldn't, like I would get lucky or something. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Yo, you made it at the end. I hear scratching. Hold on. Making sure bearded dragons ain't trying to lay in the middle of the night. I've had that happen a few times, and I'm like, oh, I gotta be crazy laying in the middle of the night. And then I'll wake up in the morning, they're still digging. I'm like, what'd you do all night? Crazy. You had to work. Ain't no such thing. I'm just kidding. Yeah. Working on Sundays is trash. I remember when I used to work Sundays. Terrible. Those ruin your entire week working on a Sunday. It didn't make no sense. Yeah. But yeah, I ain't got nothing else. So with that said, I appreciate everybody that made it. Appreciate everybody that watching. If you're watching in the future, I appreciate it. With that said, thank you. And as always, peace out.